Hey everyone, I was highly impressed with The Unfinished Swan, Giant Sparrow's first game initially released back in 2012, so I had very high expectations for their second game, What Remains of Edith Finch, which came out in April of this year. It took me a while, but I finally had the chance to play it, and it'd be an understatement if I said that it definitely didn't disappoint. Here's the rundown of the general idea behind What Remains of Edith Finch, just to give you some context if you know nothing about it. In short, you play as a woman called Edith, returning to your childhood home and exploring it in the hopes of understanding more about your family and what happened to them. The game is linear, but the house is so intelligently designed and beautifully rendered in such a manner that you may not even realize that you're being directed along a specific path. The house is an extremely densely detailed and compact world, with little things you can interact with here and there. A lot of these so-called walking sims have similar fundamental gameplay mechanics and heavily environmental-based storytelling, where you walk around and find things to observe in one way or another, perhaps accompanied by some kind of narration or dialogue. I could go on about how Giant Sparrow has really upped their game with regards to visuals. The Unfinished Swan was heavily dependent on minimalism, and the lack of nearly any definition was kind of the point, but the shift to this level of graphical intensity and attention to detail is extremely well executed and a highly commendable achievement, regardless of a couple technical hiccups. I could also talk in depth about the sound design and how much it enhances the visuals, and I could talk more about the soundtrack, which, once again, is powerful and evocative. I could talk about all these things in greater detail, but for some reason I just feel like going with the standard approach of continuing to review any of the particular categories reviews generally cover individually would be a disservice to What Remains of Edith Finch. Of all the games I've played which try to be seen as more than games, which try to truly describe themselves as experiences, this is one I feel the least comfortable analyzing as a product. Not to say that this game is necessarily better than similar games I've talked about, but I think I'm just growing a bit tired of attempting to assign any kind of quantitative value to something that is just such a genuinely emotional, expressive, and profound thing. Something that, while it might sound a little bit gimmicky, in actual practice, when actually playing it, comes across as something just so sincere. So instead, I want to discuss what I think makes What Remains of Edith Finch so effective. The most exciting moments in this game are told by letting you physically inhabit the people whose rooms you are exploring, usually participating in some sort of highly creative and unusual minigame that represents their state of mind during a significant point in their lives. This is where What Remains of Edith Finch really differentiates itself as something truly special, as one of the most imaginative games I think I've ever played. And I'm not saying that lightly. In spite of the fact that these activities can be extremely abstract, the manner in which the developers have used the controller to convey emotion and provide immersion is really interesting. To make you feel empathy and understanding by participating. Many people, myself included, feel that video games as a creative medium can only reach their full potential by emphasizing choice, because the video game medium differentiates itself from other media by entailing a greater degree of interactivity. Usually people think this means that games should give the player the power to control the progression of events, of deciding how they would like to impact the story. And there are many examples of games which try to tackle this idea in different ways. But there are also numerous reasons as to why many aren't particularly successful at creating completely player-driven narratives. And it mainly boils down to budgetary issues and technological restraints. However, it seems like for a while now, a lot of developers have grown aware of the reality of creating such a game, and have instead attempted to harness the unique power of the video game medium in other interesting ways. Giant Sparrow is one such developer. Instead of letting you decide how you want to affect the direction of the story, they would rather focus their efforts on finding more enticing ways of just having you participate in it. By using video games to tell their stories, they can achieve a level of emotional connection with the player in a way other media just can't. As I already mentioned, they achieve this primarily by creatively utilizing shifts in aesthetic, perspective, and especially in controls. And they also don't feel the need to constantly explain those controls. They let you experiment, which helps enhance the experience of playing through these imaginative, dreamlike scenarios. Even Telltale, a developer known for producing heavily story-driven and choice-oriented games, will admit that the ability to affect the overarching plots of their games doesn't matter as much as the emotions one feels during the process of making those supposedly pivotal decisions. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this game. Another excellent title by an extremely talented studio that I hope many people support. I'm very excited to see what they come up with next. And I'm also keen to hear what you thought of What Remains of Edith Finch and what I had to say about it. Thanks very much for watching the video, have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.